am a football fan. I am a soccer fan. I came to see Lineker with the rest of the world. I am a football fan. I am a soccer fan. I came to see Maradona, who is going to score in Naples.
It's a new year, but it's the same old World Football phone-in, and the real sounds of Africa still want to see Maradona, who's going to score in Naples. Well, maybe not, after the news we heard in the bulletins a moment or two ago that he was admitted to hospital. So for our World Football phone-in this morning, we're talking Europe and South America and players from over there playing in our leagues. So the number to call if you'd like to join in is 08085 909 693. That's 08085 909 693. If you've got any questions or comments about football in either region, Europe or South America, and players from over there playing in our leagues, we'd like to hear from you. I also want you this morning to share your stories of the romance of the FA Cup. It is FA Cup weekend, FA Cup third round weekend. And if your team has ever been a cup giant killer, I definitely want to hear from you. How does it feel? If your team's ever been giant killed, I want to hear from you. How does it feel? 08085 909 693. Representing Europe this morning is the one and only Galatasaray Paul Serres. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
And
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well, sir. And representing the South American contingent is the one and only Legendino Tim Vickery. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. In the immortal words of Peterson Lee, welcome home.
Welcome. Come on in and close the door. You've
Welcome
been
back,
home.
mate.
I ain't finished yet.
Well, I think we've heard more than enough.
I think we have, yeah. Let's draw a line
Welcome
on
back,
that.
mate.
Thank you.
You were badly missed. Both Seth and Hugh did terrific jobs.
They did
although
fantastic. Absolutely.
Desiccan is too much of a gentleman to mention it, but his surname was mangled on two successive weeks.
Of course it was. That's the only thing I'm worth, isn't it? That I can pronounce Desiccan Thirunayaviram off the top of my head without looking at my notes. Anyway, let's get straight on with this, by the way. And it is, as I say, FA Cup weekend. Just very quickly, let's go through our FA Cup romance moments. Do you want to start, Tim?
Well, obviously one that springs to mind is the very first Tottenham-Arsenal FA Cup semi-final at Wembley in 1991, where Gascoigne and Lineker really turned it on and won and stopped Arsenal doing the double. So that's one of my great football occasions. But it doesn't really trump it, but it was a very strong experience being in Coventry in '87 when Coventry won the cup. You know, it was the first piece of silverware that Coventry had ever won in their entire history. It was a trick question on Mastermind on Monty Python in the early 70s. I think they had Leon Trotsky, and they asked him how many times Coventry City had won the FA Cup, and it was a trick question because they never had. Well, they did in '87, and I went to most of the games, and I remember going to the semi-final, which it was a Hillsborough semi-final against Leeds. And that's a game that has it was a great game. It was a very, very dramatic semi-final. Coventry came from behind to win 3-2. We hired a coach, and as we drove up there, I can remember Leeds fans had driven down to accompany Coventry fans on the motorway up towards Hillsborough just to give them racist abuse about the black players in the Coventry team. And the great Cyril Regis was the leading one of them, but Dave Bennett, Lloyd McGrath as well. So there was a real atmosphere, and you really felt it was almost like a battle of good and evil. And Coventry won, and one of my outstanding memories is coming back into the city after the game, a couple of hours after the game, and all of Coventry had come out to the streets to greet the supporters who were coming back and greet the team who were coming back. And at that moment, you really see how much it means to a city that has never experienced anything like that before.
Galatasaray?
Yeah, well, funnily enough, that final is one of my earliest memories of the FA Cup, and particularly that goal by Keith Houchin, that diving header, which was, to my mind, at 7 or 8 years old, one of the best goals I'd ever seen, and probably still is, to be honest. It was a magnificent goal. I remember vividly Roy Essendon coming off the bench for Wycombe to score against Leicester and send Wycombe to the semi-finals.
He did it twice, didn't he? He did it
in 2001. But he did it
in two matches in a row.
This is a brilliant story, and for me, this is the romance, the magic of the cup. His agent applied for. To an advert that he saw on CFAX on the BBC, where Laurie Sanchez, who was manager of Wycombe at the time, was desperate to try and find a striker who was available and wasn't cup-tied going into the game. And he put an advert on the club website, and it was picked up by the BBC, and Roy Essendon's agent read it on CFAX, and he came off the bench having never trained with his new teammates, didn't even know who they were. Came off the bench and scored the 90th minute winner to send them past Leicester in the quarterfinals of the Cup. So, I mean, wonderful. But the FA Cup throws up incredible stories, on a regular basis. Mickey Thomas, very famous free kick for Wrexham when they killed a giant back in the early 70s, and Sunderland, when Sunderland won it in 73, of course, the first team outside the top flight to win the FA Cup in generations.
You're too young for that. You don't remember that. I remember it was yesterday.
But I remember it from, it's almost sort of collective memory, isn't it? Every year you tune into the FA Cup final and you know these stories, you know them, you've seen the goals, and like the reaction of the people of Coventry, the FA Cup brings up incredible emotion in people, I think, and they become part of the folklore. It's that's why we love football. I think we become part of something that's bigger than just our own experience. So, but obviously on a personal level, the FA Cup final in 2013, the day after my first ever appearance on the World Football Phone-In, actually, I'm sure you remember, Dotson and Tim, actually, Wigan won the cup. They were relegated that year, but they won the FA Cup 1-0 against City. It was amazing. But from a City perspective, I've been on both sides. I remember going to Ipswich a number of years ago, and Ipswich were a Premier League team, and City weren't, and City were brilliant and won 4-1 in the cup, and then went up to Newcastle in the next round, another Premier League team, and got knocked out. But the FA Cup is still and always will be the best cup competition.
Okay, I will tell you my romance FA Cup story later, and I'm also going to text you both to describe for our younger listeners, and also our many, many listeners overseas who always get in touch with me on social media. You're going to have to both try and explain what CFAX is. But I'll hold that for now. You thought I'd forgotten, did you? Anyway, we'll come back to that in a moment. It's one of those things. I'm going to allow play to continue, but I'm just putting out my finger to say I saw that incident. I'm coming back to it in a moment. Brian in Edinburgh, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to speak to you. Our first quarter of the year, mate. Congratulations.
Oh, smashing, great.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Just off a night shift.
Oh, well done. Would you mind me asking what you do on the night shift?
I'm a forklift driver for Iceland.
Oh, good for you. Good for you, mate. And was it a pleasant night shift?
No, well, I went in and it wasn't very busy after the New Year and Christmas, so I got a holiday and I come home and I put the radio on and I thought I'd phone up, put my point of view across.
Well, we're here for night workers, so that's why I'm on the night shift, mate. Anyway, I know you've got a good question for both Tim and Paul. Fire away.
Yep. I'm going back 1984-85 FA Cup final, Manchester United v Everton. Donald Whiteside curled it past one of the best goalkeepers in the world at the time, Neville Southall. And John Watson's commentary said it, how he curled that to perfection. It was amazing. It was awesome. Awesome.
Tim will remember that.
I do, yeah. I remember it very, very well. I remember it was Kevin Moran got sent off in the final as well. I think that was the first player ever to be sent off in the final of the FA Cup. I wonder what Norman Whiteside thinks looking back. He had a lot of problems with injuries, and I often got the feeling as he grew older that there was a lot of frustration in him that he didn't end up being. I mean, he had a great career, but remember the hopes for him, and he went to the '82 World Cup as a 17-year-old, and the hopes that were around him at that time was an absolute great top 3 in the world type player, and it didn't quite happen, and the injuries were part of it. And as he got older, I often thought he could be nasty, and I wonder how much of that was frustration that things hadn't quite gone the way that he'd hoped and expected.
Brian, appreciate the call, mate. Unless you had something more to say.
Honestly, memories. Honestly, I can look back all the years, the decades in Manchester United and Celtic Football Club, and there's only one goal I can pick out, and John Watson described it to perfection, how you could beat one of the best goalkeepers in the world.
Yeah. And it's incredible how the memory stays with you as well,
Yeah.
Why does that particular memory, that particular goal stay in your mind? Is it because it was so spectacular?
Because the exact same day, they were all 3 o'clock kickoffs. Celtic played Dundee United, sure at Hampden. I'm a big Celtic man. And I bet a double Celtic Manchester United to win the 2 cups. So I came up trumps. That's a really good day.
That's a good way to remember these things. Put a decent bet on it. Thank you, Brian. I really appreciate it. And well done you for being our first caller of the year, as I say. This morning we are talking football in South America and Europe, but I've asked for your FA Cup memories. This is a big FA Cup weekend, 3rd round of the FA Cup. Big guns are in there, looking for a giant killer. How's it feel? How's it feel when your team becomes a giant killer? How does that feel? Tell me. 08085 909 693. How does it feel to be giant killed? That's horrible, I know. But tell me, put some flesh on my words. How does it feel, you who've experienced it? 08085 909 693. I'm going to tell you how it feels to lose an FA Cup final later on. That's painful. 08085 909 693. Your FA Cup memories. Any questions and comments you've got on football in South America and Europe and players from over there playing in our leagues, most welcome. Let's speak to Bob in Barnet, William in Gateshead. Hang on, I'll come to you in a second. Hello, Bob.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, sir. Good to speak to you.
Love your programme. Absolutely brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Mate.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I've just turned bright pink again, as I sometimes do. But thank you. Yeah, let's talk about the FA Cup then. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Tim and the boys, they're brilliant. I absolutely love their chat. Superb.
I taught Tim everything he knows, I taught Tim everything he knows.
I don't know how old Tim is. I don't know how old Tim is, but he's got, what a memory he's got.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, Bob, I was just thinking about this when we were talking about the '85 FA Cup final, and I was going to ask Paul, because I've reached an age when I can remember the '85 Cup final, but I can't remember what happened last week. That's what memory does to you as you get older. Paul, have you got there yet?
Yeah, I am getting there. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
I don't know if Tim or yourself, if you're old enough, will remember this one. It was 3rd round of the FA Cup at Vicarage Road, Watford, Vicarage Road. And I supported them then. I'd support Barnet now.
Yeah.
But they played Birmingham. They were in the Div 4, and they played Birmingham from the Premiership, or Div 1 as it was known then, they had Gil Merrick, the Welsh goalkeeper, Gil Merrick in goal. Watford beat them 2-1 in one of the virtually never mentioned cup upsets. That was about 1961, 62, somewhere around there.
Paul Serres will remember that one.
Vividly,
Bob, do you remember a Watford one from a few years later, maybe 69, 70, something like that, when Watford, a couple of rounds further on in the Cup, they beat Liverpool. And it was 1-0, maybe Barry Endine or something. It's a hugely significant game for Liverpool, because that was the moment when Bill Shankly started to break up the one side and create another. You know, they had Tommy Lawrence, the flying pig at goalkeeper, and Ian St John, and they got dropped, and in came Ray Clements, and so on. So that defeat, it's amazing how sometimes defeat can lead to triumph. You know, losing to Watford in '69 or '70, you know, ushered in a new great era for Liverpool, but didn't do so for Watford. Were you at that game as well?
Oh, I wasn't. No, because I joined the Sporting Life newspaper as a messenger, and I used to work quite a lot. I eventually became the ground editor of the Sporting Life, which closed 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
and later I became ground editor of the Sun until about 2 years ago.
I'm doff my cap to you, sir. Well done. And of course, like you say, you support Barnet now. So the move from Underhill to wherever it is now, was that a good move for you? Not
popular.
Yeah, no.
Outrageous. We got Sheffield United away on Sunday, but no, moving away from Underhill, it was a tragic, shocking move. I go over to the Hive, which is now in Edgware, but the Edgware club, who were in the old Athenian League, they've closed now. But it's just not the same. I mean, it's done well. The chairman, I think he had a fallout with the Barnet Council, and he moved over to Edgware. And
it's a nice little ground though, Underhill. Really nice ground. I used to go there quite regularly, actually. Really nice ground.
Well, it had a slope.
Yeah, it had a slope.
Like Yeovil.
And also the locals could watch the match from their back gardens as well, as I recall.
Yes, they could. From Westcombe Drive,
That's a proper football ground, mate. That's a proper football ground. Because there weren't any seats on one end of the... behind one of the goal mouths, was there? There was you had to stand up and lean against the wall or whatever it was, and then behind that you just saw these people looking out their windows.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it's good.
On the north stand. Yeah.
Yeah, mate. Well, as Barbara Streisand says, memories light the corners of our minds. That's why we're asking about FA Cup memories. Thanks a lot for the call, Bob. I really appreciate it. William in Gateshead is with us as well. You've got some FA Cup memories you want to share? Hello, William.
Hi. Right. I called up to start the programme. I should have called earlier and put me call to be the first person on.
Oh! You only missed it by 2 calls, though. You only missed it by 2 calls.
It's not a worry. I just wanted to preempt everything and say, don't mention Hereford.
And I'm not going to mention Hereford.
Right, yes.
Oops.
No.
No one remembers Ronnie Radford, do they?
Oh, no, of course I don't. Or Ricky George. No. Anyway.
It's been 47 years, mate.
It was 1972. I was sitting watching Grandstand and the teleprinter was on. And I was explaining to the lad before, I don't know if the radio was on in the background, but it may have been too early for that. But anyway, it came on the teleprinter and Newcastle lost. And if anyone had said to me, and I was 9 years of age, and if anyone had said to me, in 47 years' time, you're going to be 56, and you're still going to be droning on about it. It's going to be on Football Focus tomorrow. It's going to be on every blaming year. I would have said, no, you're a lunatic. You're simply a lunatic. But there it is. It'll be on Football Focus tomorrow, or whatever. It's unbelievable, and I am so sick of it. And I'm not kidding here. I mean, if in 3 years' time, when I talk about it's the 50th anniversary, that I can understand. If I've been talking about the 40th anniversary, that I can understand. But not the 47th anniversary, not the 46th anniversary, or the 33rd. It's simply pathetic the way they talk about it. No, but you see, I can understand why you're laughing.
No, I'm not laughing. I'm
no,
not
I'm
laughing.
talking about the lads.
Yeah.
If you look at it from my point of view,
I'm laughing.
I'm just one Newcastle fan, right?
Yeah,
No,
we're
I
laughing,
am
William,
one-
but not at you.
I am one of, like, you know, I don't know how many Newcastle fans there are, hundreds of thousands, and we are so sick of it. We're just so sick and tired of here. I mean, Hereford United don't even exist anymore. Because
That makes it
deliberately-
worse, actually.
I
Now I'm
deliberately
laughing. Now I'm
I sent-
laughing.
I sent the supporters club or whatever they were. I sent them a tweet to say, like, where's your Ronnie Radford now when they went out of business? Because I mean, that's how bitter I am. I mean, I just said, you know, they don't exist anymore. There's a club called Hereford, but it's not Hereford United. They don't exist. Just like Rangers in Scotland, they don't exist anymore. It's a new club, and that's the way it is.
Yeah.
And you know,
But
it's
we'll
just,
never forget it.
no. Well, you might never forget it, but why do you keep having to ram it down our throats every single year? I mean, can I just say one more thing?
Yeah, of course you can.
Why do you never mention Sunderland versus Yeovil? I mean, that was
Hey,
before us.
this is getting a little bit tribal for me.
Yeah, well,
I'm not allowed to go tribal.
Yeovil beat Sunderland in the FA Cup, right? Yeovil were a non-league side, and they beat Sunderland, who were, I assume were in the first division then. Never gets mentioned. It never gets mentioned.
Do you know, one of the editors of this programme is a supporter of one of those clubs, Newcastle or Sunderland. Which one do you think she's a supporter of?
No, I wouldn't have a clue. Yeah, I haven't spoken to her. I wouldn't have a clue.
She isn't. She doesn't have the same hang-ups about 47 years ago as you do. Let's put it that
She's a
way.
Macam, right? She's a Macam,
Tribal
Time is a great
war. We don't want no more of this. No, it's. Listen, man, that is the proper pain of supporting a team which has been giant killed, William. You couldn't have expressed it any better.
Can't you
thank you very
take it
much.
as a compliment? And that the fact that it is you know, year after year, isn't that a kind of backhanded compliment to
Yes,
the
yes.
size and importance of Newcastle?
Yeah, I see that, but I also, you know, I see the point you're making, but it's just, you know, do you not get fed up? I'm talking to the general population. Do you not get fed up? And let's talk about something else. Let's talk about. Oh, here's the thing. Let's talk about Yeovil versus Sunderland, just for a change. You know, so, was it Sutton United versus Coventry?
Yes.
Oh, I forget who it was.
Yes.
But, you know,
yes.
let's talk about this
that's
one for a change. No,
Yeah.
it's always Ronnie Radford. I mean, it was on the radio today on another station. The commentary was on another station today. Even though it was BBC commentary, it was on a rival station. Nothing to do with the BBC today. And I thought, I was pulling my out. I said, Bob, will you pack it in, man? Yeah, oh, God.
By the way, how do you,
I know there are Newcastle fans listening to me now saying, yes, son, go on, tell him. But you're
Listen.
sick of it?
William, stay with me a moment because
Yeah.
you mentioned other Newcastle supporters.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got Bernard with us in Newcastle. Hello, Bernard.
Good morning, Dalton.
How are you?
Well, the first time we tried to play the replay at Hereford, we got all the way there and we were told it was off because of the bad weather.
Yeah.
So we had to wait, have a few drinks, and then I've travel all the way back in the coach.
Oh, it wasn't so
Eventually,
bad
when we did
then.
play it was fourth round day in February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just a fluke that John Mutson, being a young up-and-coming BBC sort of commentator, had his chance to debut there, and fickle finger of fate was looking for him. You know, the first goal was scored by Newcastle after 82 minutes, and Hereford's equaliser, the one that everybody sees, was scored at 86 minutes, and there's actually ITV, I think, had pictures from the other angle, the other side of the pitch, but that's never been seen in a long time. And the Ricky George goal was, I couldn't tell you how long in the extra time it was, because, you know, we only needed to hang on for 8 minutes and we'd be through to the next round, but that wasn't to be.
What, you were actually at the game?
Yeah. I even missed times off school to go on the bus for some of the journeys because where the snow was, because I was determined to see this game. It was my first FA Cup tie away watching Newcastle.
The pitch, Bernard, if I remember rightly from the TV images, the pitch was just an absolute mud heap, wasn't it? You wouldn't graze cows on it these days.
That's called
And obviously
romance. That's called the romance of the FA Cup.
That makes it a great leveller, doesn't it?
You'd probably use it for a mud wrestling match more than anything. You'd have about 100 aside.
Imagine, Bernard, you bunk off school,
Yeah.
travel hundreds of miles to see a mud wrestling match, and your side loses. It's not funny.
Yeah, they even playing in the red strip that day, and Newcastle fans always felt aggrieved the club chose to play in those colours for some odd reason.
Have they ever played in those colours since?
No, I think the fans got the message across to them. They tended to play in a all blue away colour rather than all red.
Look,
Somebody must have been getting well paid in the directors' sort of family to sanction that.
well,
Apparently.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. But Bernard, meet William, who is in Gateshead. William, meet Bernard, who is in Newcastle.
Yeah. I'm the good chuckle.
There was only 1 year where the goal wasn't shown on television, believe it or not. Radio 4 give it to sort of the radio coverage. So you still couldn't avoid the goal, no matter what year it was, for the start of the FA Cup with the big boys in it.
So, given that you know what's going to happen later on today on Football Focus, what recommendations would you offer to any Newcastle fans who don't want to be reminded about this around midday later on today, or 1 o'clock, whatever time
Well,
it
if
is?
you don't want to be reminded, switch channels.
No, you can't do that. Can't do that. You're not allowed to switch channels. What else can you do?
Yeah, from BBC 1 to BBC 2, or the BBC News channel.
Fair enough. If you stay with the BBC, you're allowed.
Channel.
And stay in bed.
Stay in bed.
Well, I'm up late, so I'll not see it. I'll just stay in bed. I just don't want to see it. I don't want to be reminded of it. I just get lost. Everybody, just leave me alone.
Yeah. And
At least the game that was on the television last night did show other sort of what you would call lower teams beating the big boys. Sutton were there, and I think Lincoln were there beating Burnley the other season.
Yeah.
The thing is, in 1974, a non-league Wimbledon actually won away at Burnley, but that game wasn't covered on television, so it never gets to be bought.
Yeah, well, you see, that's the thing. If you're going to get beaten, if you're going to be giant killed, it has to be shown on TV, otherwise it doesn't count. Doesn't count.
Yeah,
really.
as I say, it was fourth round day, and ours was a third round replay, which had been delayed because of the weather and other things.
Yeah. Sorry, Tim, you were about
It is strange, isn't it, how that one has stood out, because there are others, as William reminded us, Yeovil beating Sunderland. One I remember from just a little bit earlier than Hereford Newcastle is Colchester against Leeds. And that was huge, because Leeds were the best team in the country at the time, and lost to Colchester in the old fourth, I think. But you're right, it does always seem to be the Newcastle-Hereford one that gets wheeled out. I wonder why that is.
Bernard and
Perhaps
William.
it's all part of the worldwide conspiracy against Newcastle United.
Well, yeah, there might be that. Bernard and William, thank you very much for sharing your feelings about that particular match. This is what we're talking about this morning on the World Football Phone-In. The romance of the FA Cup on this big FA Cup weekend. Both Bernard in Newcastle and William in Gateshead shared what it feels like to have been giant killed. And not only that, to have the giant killing shown every year at this point. And before I let them go, I forgot to ask them what time it's going to be on later on today. So that we all know. No, Newcastle fans, I love you. Don't get me wrong. 08085 909 693. I do want more of your memories of the romance of the FA Cup, for better or worse, as it were. 08085 909 693.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live. Available on the BBC Sounds app. Up all night with Dotun Adebayo.
Yeah, on tonight's World Football Phone-In, we're talking about football in South America and Europe, but we're also asking for your romance of the FA Cup memories, for better or worse. If you've been a supporter of a side that giant killed another side, we'd love to hear from you. How does that feel? And if you've been giant killed by a lesser club, if you like, or a club that shouldn't have beaten you, then how does that feel as well? Let us know. 08085 909 693. We've got the Legendino Tim Vickery in Rio. Take care of any of your specific South American questions or comments. And the Galatasaray Paul Serras is over this side of the water answering any questions and comments you might have on European football. Remember, we were talking to Bernard in Newcastle and William in Gateshead about their memories of, well, we can't mention the word Hereford, apparently.
It felt like a therapy session there for a minute, Don,
Hereford,
before the news.
47 years ago, Hereford, giant killed Newcastle. Well, you laugh, but Bernard in Newcastle was at the match. And William in Gateshead, it just rues the fact that they'll show this match again every year as they do on Football Focus.
I'll be honest, Don. I mean, I could sense his pain, but also, for someone who didn't want to talk about it, he spoke about it at length and with a certain amount of passion.
He never said he didn't want to talk about it.
He said he didn't want to hear about it.
Yeah, he didn't want to hear about it.
So he did the talking.
Difference there. There's a huge difference. Anyway, let's get the other side of the story from Katie in Hereford. Hello.
Oh, brilliant.
Hello.
Hi, Katie. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I just had to get out of a warm bed in the middle of the night.
Of course you did.
Two lovely Geordies.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
Can't have them stealing our thunder.
It's a shame that they're not still on, but tell us your story. What do you remember about that match?
I didn't go.
Surely too young to remember.
My husband did. He was one of the Parker-clad youths who ran on the pitch to celebrate the goal and obviously after the final whistle.
So do you see him on Football Focus every year running onto the pitch? Well, keep trying. What's he remember about that?
Only that it was, you had to be there. If you were a football fan, you had to be there. His mum queued for hours for a ticket for him. The queue went almost right round the ground. My mum wouldn't do it, that's why I didn't go. It made John Motson. In fact, he came back to the 40th anniversary celebration that we had here for a special evening.
Are you celebrating it 40 years on?
We did.
Dotton, the 40th anniversary, I can understand.
Most of the original team was still around and came.
And the town, does the town, Hereford, or it's a city, isn't it, Hereford?
It's a city, yes.
Yeah, of course it is. Does the city still feed on this victory?
Definitely. Excuse me. Wow. Recently, the local theatre put on a production called Goal that was based entirely around the cast of 4 or 5, and their experiences of that day. And it was brilliant.
Fantastic.
Wow.
And again, they had some of the original team come to the gala evening.
It is fantastic, considering
that's an amazing story, isn't it?
Particularly because the football team
leading to arts.
But the football team doesn't exist anymore, as
No,
William in
it's very
Gateshead
sad.
said.
It went down the pan, unfortunately. It's very sad.
Yeah, William in Gateshead said, the football team doesn't even exist anymore. Sorry, that's a terrible accent. Terrible.
We tried for years and years of it, and we still do.
Will you forever remember this victory?
Oh, yes.
If we're around in 100 years' time, will it be 147 years and they're still showing it on Football Focus?
Probably.
Sorry, that is Scottish. Via Nigeria, obviously. I'm sorry.
No, the city was absolutely buzzing before and afterwards. Talked about nothing else. My football-loving grandfather, who didn't live in Hereford and hardly ever been here, saw it on Match of the Day and actually rang up and said, "Do you realise that tin pot football team of yours has actually beaten Newcastle been on the television?"
Why does it mean so much for Hereford?
It was such a big thing. We were a non-league team. I think it helped get us into the league the following year. The fact that we could play football like that.
But why does it still mean so much?
Well, we're in a football wilderness here. There's no big teams. The nearest big team is probably 50 miles away. Aston Villa or Wolves were the nearest big teams. And it just meant so much to get a big team to come here and then be beaten.
That explains a lot.
Because we'd held them to a draw up at St James Park beforehand anyway. Hereford was the replay.
Will you be watching Football Focus later today?
I expect so, yes. In fact, there's been a tweet already this week reminding everybody of it, showing a clip of it.
So every year when the FA Cup comes around...
We don't forget. No, absolutely every year. It was goal of the season, goal of the decade, probably goal of the century, I think. And they were part-timers, and he was a joiner from Yorkshire, Ronnie Radford.
Do you know what's happened to him now?
He's still around. He was there at the 40th.
And does he get the keys to the city and all of that?
The guy who played him in the play at the theatre actually went up to Yorkshire and met him and sat and had a chat with him and got his take on things.
Does he have the keys to the city?
Oh, practically, yeah.
I mean, can he drive a herd of sheep across the town centre or something like that? As they do?
Quite possibly. I know they walked a bull around the pitch, a Hereford bull.
Oh, for goodness sake!
I was going to say, Don, that's weird in London, but you know, when you get out to the extremities of the country, like where I am in Wiltshire and in Herefordshire, it's quite normal to drive your sheep through the town.
Okay, let me just get this right. They walked the bull around the pitch.
Yes, a Hereford bull.
Do you know if it was clockwise or anti-clockwise?
No.
As if it made any difference. Okay. and the bull was amenable.
Apparently, yes.
Right. It's a good job it wasn't one of those Spanish ones.
Can I underline the point about Hereford being in the wilderness? I was actually in the crowd in 1990 when Hereford won the Welsh Cup final.
Yes.
They're not actually in Wales.
No, we're not.
Wrexham.
No.
No, not in Wales, you know, but they were in the Welsh Cup final. So it was almost like no one knows even where this place is from. I would love to find out more about this play. This was it Goal?
It was called Goal. It was only on for I think it ran for about 10 days, and I'm not sure if it's going anywhere else.
I'm sure with enough publicity that would be of interest to fans all over the country.
I know, and considering there was only a cast of, I think there were 4 or 5 of them, they were brilliant. They were all playing teenagers who went to the match, and it was a bit about their sort of lifestyle and how they interacted with each other. But we went to watch it, and because we were that age at that time, we really, really identified with them.
See, this is the real romance of the FA Cup. It's heartbreak and it's joy.
That's made my night.
Joy and heartbreak.
That goal,
at the same
the
time.
theatre story has made my night, Dotton. And
it's a good one.
Wouldn't it be great if someone listening to this is a theatre producer who thinks, you know, well, that has appeal, not just in Hereford. Because, you know,
in Newcastle.
Kate's saying, well, maybe
Gateshead.
You wouldn't go to Newcastle. You wouldn't take Gaul to Newcastle, you know. But apart from that,
as bad as
I'm sure that there'd be brilliant audience for that nationwide. I'm sure there would be.
Listen, Katie, thank you very much for sharing those memories. Really appreciate it. And you really brought home what it means to Hereford for us. Thank you. 08085 909 693. On tonight's very special, I suppose, World Football Phone-In, we're talking about football in South America and Europe. We'll get to that. Don't worry. We'll get to that in a moment. Just bear with me. But your football memories of FA Cup romance are amazing. So let's share some more. Ken is with us in Liverpool, in Merseyside. Hello, how are you?
Not too bad at all, thank you.
Thank you for calling, appreciate it. So yours is, well, 2 top flight teams playing against each other.
I'll tell you, just before we go on with it, a thing that Tim said before resonates with me. Being 86, I can't remember sometimes what happened yesterday. And yet I can remember that, which is over 50 years ago.
That's incredible, isn't it? Why is that, do you think? Why is that, Ken?
Well, there was a lot of things that led up to it. The first thing is that although I was 33, I'd never been to London before. Because, you know, you didn't do that in those days. So I'd never been to London. And then the team itself, I can't remember who he came in for, but we had this young lad from Treblecock, I think his name was. It's something like that, like Treblecock. And I think he came from Portsmouth or down there somewhere. And he came into the team right at the last minute. And of course, going to the match was the biggest event I've ever been to. And we were 2-0 down at half time. And needless to say, my heart was in my boots. But I always remember there was a chap standing next to me with a great big blue hat on, you know, one of like bowler hats, only about 4 foot high. And he said, "Don't worry, lad, you know, we'll win," you know, and that's what happened. And then, of course, the other thing as well, which I was telling your colleague about, was the Cassius Clay thing. Is I got down there a bit early on the train, and I think it was Leicester. I said it was Trafalgar Square, but I think it was Leicester Square. There was an entourage coming towards me on the pavement, and I couldn't get past. And next minute, I'm standing right in front of Cassius Clay then. And he turned around to me and he said, "You know, hello there. What's all this, what, you got the big scarf on and all the other stuff, you know?" So I had to explain to him this was a cup final. And I even got a photograph of him there, you know. So, and then, of course, it was a little bit later than I realised who it was, because I wasn't into boxing in those days. And then to find out who it was, you know. So it all built up, you know, but the match itself was just absolutely unbelievable, you know. And with the final goal from Derek Temple, where he broke through their defence and scored well, you know. It's one that didn't collapse, because I know a lot of other people did round about me, you know. So it's one of those things. It's a life remembrance, you know. I've been to all kinds of games with them, you know. Although we haven't had all that much success since I've been watching them. Anyway, I did go abroad with them to Holland, but that game was unbelievable. It really was, yeah.
Really appreciate you sharing your memories of it with us, Ken. Thank you very much. At 86 years old, you don't qualify as our oldest listener. Second oldest, third oldest, something like that, maybe, you know. But thank you, and thank you for sharing memories from 50. What was a great day, obviously, for you, meeting Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali afterwards as well. And yeah,
I remember one.
So
from the other side of Liverpool.
Let me just tell you the score. It was 3-2 to Everton against Manchester United. Yeah, that was 66. Sorry, what you were
Preston, saying? I think. Was it Preston? Anyway, I remember one from the other half of Liverpool, which is topical at the moment. You know, because Liverpool are still, sorry, Paul, they're still top of the Premier League.
No problem.
Despite the other night's events.
So it was Sheffield Wednesday, you're right. It wasn't Preston, it was Sheffield Wednesday. Right. Apologies for my confusion.
And, well, the last time Liverpool won the league was 1990. And, you know, Guardiola's been saying, you know, the pressure's going to be on Liverpool because they haven't won it for so long. And sometimes, you know, one game can have a huge significance. One game can break a side or make a side. And that year, it was the FA Cup semi-final. And I happened to be there. It was Liverpool against Crystal Palace at Villa Park. And I've got a great mate of mine is a Palace fan. So we went up to that game. And Liverpool walked the league that year. They won it by such a huge margin. They've never won it since. Earlier in the season, they beat Palace 9-0. So, you know, the expectation was that semi-final was going to be a cakewalk for Liverpool. And they were 1-0 up early, and they looked to be walking it, but then they had one or two injuries. And second half, Palace came out and really hit them. Very direct, very physical. And Liverpool couldn't cope with it. And they really crumbled under the pressure. And in the end, Palace won 4-3. And that was the end of Liverpool. You know, all right, they already had the league in the bag that year. But they never got close again, you know, for a while, and they haven't won it since. So that one game was enough for the self-belief of a side to collapse. You know, there are so many games, and once you reach a certain age, it's hard to remember all of them. But certain games just stick out for their significance. You know, there are certain games when a side just comes together and finds a blend and finds its confidence, and you know, and there are other games when a side falls apart and it will never be the same again. Well, and that Liverpool defeat in 1990 to Palace is certainly in the second category.
Let's ask Chris in Northamptonshire, because you've got a game like that in memory. Was it a case of your team doing superbly well against Manchester United or falling apart?
I think there's only one answer there, Dawn. No, we were well and truly walloped 8-2 at home to Manchester United. I think it was 19.
The George Best game.
Yeah, you got it in one. You got it. I think it was 1970, fifth round, and I'm quite proud actually that my team's associated with, getting a good hiding 8-2 to Manchester United. I think George Best had been banned or suspended for, say, either 4 weeks or 6 weeks. It's quite a long time. Anyhow, this is his first game back, so you'd imagine him to be a little bit, unmatched fit, bit rusty, but no, he promptly put 6 goals past us. And I don't know if you've ever seen the goals on TV, but it's just a simple masterclass in finishing, and he just totally destroyed us. And unfortunately, I wasn't there, but I've watched it many times on TV, and it's just a great one-man display of goal scoring. It really is. Just around the goalkeeper, and he could have sort of leaned against the goalpost and had a cigarette before the goalkeeper scored. But what a player George Best is. The best player in my lifetime, must admit, without a shadow of a doubt.
I don't want to sound like Colonel Bogey, but did they give him 2 balls?
That's a very good question, actually. They probably couldn't have afforded 1 ball, let alone 2 balls, being a poor fourth division outfit that we are, sort of thing. So, and also that game, we played in this a kit. It's all white with 2 claret hoops across the chest. And to that day, a lot of our fans, that's our favourite ever Northampton kit. It's an iconic kit and an iconic game. It really was fantastic.
Apparently, you're going to get beaten in red, aren't you? You are going to get beaten in red, because we heard from the Newcastle supporters earlier on. They were playing in red, and claret is kind of red, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of a deep, a classy red, shall we say. Although the kit was sort of predominantly white, anyhow.
So you got beaten 8-2, but you were wearing a classy kit, yeah. Okay.
It was a classy defeat. It was
that's how to take the positives out of a situation.
It's a real romance FA Cup.
Does everybody in Northampton, or most people in Northampton, remember this?
The game?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt, yeah. I think it's passed on from generations. Everyone sort of knows about it, and the programme fetches good money still. And we I don't know if you know, but we played at the county ground in those days, which was a ground we shared with the Northamptonshire Cricket Club. So it was effectively a 3-sided ground. So they built a temporary stand along one side of the pitch, and I think the crowd that day was maybe 25,000, 22,000, which is just unheard of to get that many in like a 3-sided with a temporary side ground. It was it's just again just adds to all the romance of the FA Cup.
That's what they call it. Chris, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Great memories there. Tonight's World Football Phone-In is about your stories. It's been such a fascinating listen. We'll continue with some of your FA Cup memories. Do feel free to call in on 08085 909 693. Huge FA Cup weekend here in the UK. Third round of the FA Cup is where the big guns, the top flight teams, come in, and it's where the giant killing happens. If it's going to happen, it will more likely happen in the third round. So your FA Cup memories for your team, whether good or bad, would love to hear them. What's your best memory of the FA Cup that brings about the romance of the FA Cup? More on that. But this is a World Football Phone-In. We're talking football in South America and Europe this morning. And the Galatasaray is here, Paul Serres, answering any questions you might have on European football and players from over there playing in our leagues. And the Legendino Tim Vickery is in Rio, taking care of any questions you've got on South American football and players from over there playing in our leagues. Am I the only one of our trio who has ever flown BOAC?
Yep, no doubt about it. I didn't fly till I was 23. And
okay, long gone by then.
Already gone.
And do you know what BOAC stands for, Paul?
No idea.
British Overseas Aircraft Company. Yeah, it's corporation. The last thing, BOEC.
Yeah.
But it's
There was BEA, which was Europe. And
yeah, that was
BOAC,
nonsense.
which
BEA was nothing compared to BOAC. But both became British Airways, of course. Anyway, BOAC. The reason why I say that is I flew in from Miami Beach, BOAC. I'm back in the USSR, of course. And
do you know what, Don? I never knew.
Was the paper bag on your knee?
Yes, that's the one. It was on my knee.
So what was that? Did you have a dreadful flight, Don?
Yeah, pretty dreadful flight. But more importantly, Georgia's always on my mind. Tom in Basingstoke, tell them why.
Hello, can you guys hear me okay? We're in the car.
Loud and clear.
Basingstoke for Middlesbrough for the FA Cup match.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Yeah, good for you, mate. Yeah.
3 o'clock in the morning.
yeah, it's an early start for us today. I had a couple of questions. First of all, I don't know if Paul's declared his interest yet this morning.
I haven't.
He hasn't yet. We've only been on air an hour, 5 minutes from his phone in.
Record.
He'll have to declare it sometime very soon. So make sure you don't fall asleep.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask him about Georgian football. Given as a proud Man City fan he is, obviously days of Georgi Kinkladze, Tuskadadze, Shelia. People playing like Arveladze and Ketspire. What happens to those guys, and what's happened to Georgian football? Is it still? I mean, what's going on with it?
Well, yeah. I mean, they in the mid-90s they had a wonderful team, didn't they? Set as it so often is, on the back of independence from the USSR and internal strife in Abkhazia, South Ossetia. They were a great team, and Shota Arveladze and Archil Arveladze as well. Shota Arveladze is still one of the top scorers that the UEFA Cup, as it was, has ever seen. And Kinkladze was a very, very bright spark in what was otherwise a relatively dark time.
Brilliant footballer. He was
for Manchester City. Just an amazing player. The kind of player that we don't really see a great deal of anymore. And it ended quite badly for Gio at City, relegation and then his subsequent sale to Ajax, where he went after. Yeah. I mean Timur Ketspire was.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
He was a hero of mine, even though I'm a Torquay United fan. Absolutely loved him playing in the 90s, especially goals scored against Southampton.
That's the iconic goal. And at that time, the Premier League was full of players like that, but very few of them. Probably Letitia, I suppose, played. At Southampton was a similar kind of player, a similar statured club, I suppose, at the time. But very few of those players, played for the lower end of the Premier League clubs, and he was the kind of player that makes you fall in love with football. Really, the player that does things that you don't believe were actually possible to happen with the football. But yeah, they've struggled.
Was he a team player though, Paul, or an individual?
He was an individual. He was an individual. But what I will say is that speaking to players that played with him, he was very well liked. So it wasn't like he was aloof, slightly superior, better than everybody else kind of player. He was dropped at times by Alan Ball, I think, for not being an Alan Ball kind of player, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, he was a magnificent talent, and those players do tend to be kind of individualistic, particularly if you're surrounded by, at the time, as he was, trying to be diplomatic, not very good players, and I suppose you feel a responsibility that you have to go and do it yourself. For if you're the one with all the talent in the team, but. Yeah, that Georgian side. I mean, Timur Ketspire. We've had a couple of Geordies on tonight and talking about their bad memories of the FA Cup. Timur Ketspire would be a good memory. He's in management these days. He was managing in Cyprus. So you would think that players like Ketspire, Levian Kobiashvili, who was another wonderful Georgian player started in the mid-90s with the national team. Iashvili as well played a long time in Germany. You would hope that these players would begin, or the fruits of their labour still being involved in the game in Georgia would start to come through, and they might get another boost. But as things stand, I mean, they have some relatively good players. Yaba Kankava is a good player, but nothing like that standard of players
Does
from
that
the
mean, Paul,
mid-1990s.
Does that mean, Paul, that in the long term, the collapse of the Soviet Union wasn't positive for Georgian football?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as far as they had their own identity. I mean, to state the obvious. And, I think the pan-Soviet club competitions were so strong. You had teams from Dynamo Kiev and the Moscow teams playing Dynamo Tbilisi and these great sides of yesteryear. And I think that concentrated level of competition was good for everybody. I mean, Dynamo Kiev dominated for decades in the old Soviet systems, and indeed, changed the game really to a large extent. But obviously, they've struggled slightly since the breakup of the Soviet Union, and I think the collective strength. I don't want to come across as toeing the party line here for the Soviet Union, but the collective strength was big, and of course the communist ideal is it often uses sport as a tool to show the physical superiority. We see it around the world still. I mean, Cuba is generally an impoverished nation, but they always manage to produce great sportsmen, great boxers, to show that communism is alive and well, and alive and kicking, or alive and punching, as the case may be. In
strong.
Exactly,
Yeah,
and a strong nation, and we see it with around the world with communist leaders' desire to be involved hands-on in sport. China has become an incredible...
It's not just communists. Sorry to cut you. I would say that smaller countries, one of the ways that they can punch above their weight is to have a remarkable sports person, whether it's a footballer or tennis player or an athlete of some sort. Who had heard of Romania before Ilie Nastase started?
Well, Nadia Comaneci is another. This is another example.
Exactly. That's
Romanian gymnasts were wonderful when Steaua Bucharest were winning the European Cup. And since the fall of communism in Eastern Europe, since the Iron Curtain came down, these nations have generally struggled because funds have gone elsewhere. You don't have a totalitarian regime deciding, where the funds will go and looking to export the reputation or raise the reputation of their nation through the minds of people abroad in sporting terms. Money has to go elsewhere on feeding people that have been dispossessed by years of totalitarian regimes, people who have been ostracized and marginalized by the regime, just all of a sudden have a say, and people want food to eat and they want an education, and so other things become much more important, and Romania are not producing any more Nadia Comaneci's or Ilie Nastases. And
if you'd like to join in the World Politics phone-in, do give us a call. But hold on. And Tom, by the way, thank you very much for that. Really appreciate the call, and good luck today. Have a great time at the FA Cup match. I just wanted to bring this one in very, very quickly. Tim, how long have you been living out in South America?
24 and a half years. 24
and a half years. So you may not actually get this. If I said to you, "Hello, boys," what do you think of?
Eva Herzegovina.
I knew. Well, give him a chance, mate.
Oh, sorry.
Come on. You've been in this country all that time. We're trying to find out just how far distance he is away from us, intellectually and otherwise. Hello, boys.
No, it means nothing to me.
Wonder Bra?
Well, I've never used one. But
Okay, just checking. I'm just checking if you had or not. Anyway, this is from Sarah. Or Sarah, actually. Apologies, Sarah. Our own Bardi. Our own bard of World Football Phone. So she says, "Hello, boys. Happy New Year to the whole World Football Phone family." So you see that it makes sense now, doesn't it? Yeah, I've said hello, boys, and I've explained why I said it. Okay, further to the Hereford Bull story. In 1996, Hereford and Tottenham played in the FA Cup third round. Hereford led their Bull around the pitch before the first game at Edgar Street, which ended in a draw. Don't know what happened to the Bull after that. My granddad worked for Spurs at the time and told me years later that they had genuinely spent quite a while looking into the feasibility of leading a cockerel around the White Hart Lane.
Sounds like a cock and bull story to me, Don.
I know, but we enjoyed it. We enjoyed it. Come on. We enjoyed it. I enjoyed that one. So, having said that, we've got callers. So let's go to the callers 08085 909 693. Alan is in Santa Monica. Hello.
Yeah, hi guys. Hello again. Happy New Year.
Alan the referee.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is me, yes.
Happy New Year, Alan.
So, Ref, what are your FA Cup romance memories?
Well, it's so funny. I'm just sitting here, and this is a great opportunity to bring it all together now, the community of football. Because I'm sitting here in Los Angeles with a rosette in front of me, right? And this rosette I got from 1981 FA Cup final, the 100th Football Association Challenge Cup competition. And that, as you all know, was between Tottenham Hotspurs and Manchester City. So let's bring that all together now. We've got both candidates here. Anybody remember that one?
Declare an interest.
Like it was yesterday.
Well, I was there for that. And
talk us through it.
Unbelievable. You know, here I am sitting in America, and
First game or replay?
Well, that was where my question was going to get to, really, because being a referee, I'm interested in the mechanics of football rather than the football itself. but that was a replay, yeah. And it's such a funny story because I got to that game. I didn't have a ticket for the original final, but my girlfriend her father ran the restaurant at Wembley. And so every FA Cup final, he was praying for a replay, double the money, you know. And so we got the replay, and he brought me in. So I got into the restaurant, and I got into the game. So I actually got to see the Ricky Villa goal.
And
it was an
to be
unbelievable
fair to Paul,
event.
you saw the Steve McKenzie goal as well.
Yeah.
Because McKenzie scored a fabulous volley for Man City before Ricky Villa. Still Ricky Villa, is he going to go all the way? In fact, it's Villa, but John Watson didn't know that. And I'll let that slide.
Yeah, Villa.
But I guess the point I really want to get to was I mean, that was a great memory for me, and it's amazing that you guys are talking about that. But given this is the World Football Phone-In and I'm sitting miles away, what about replays, though? I know we're getting less and less replays in the build-up to the finals. I'm not even sure if they're still going to have it in the finals because of the uncertainty of having to book it out and so on. But are the replays dying? And is that true still in the cup competitions in Europe and the cup competitions worldwide? Are we losing
That's a good question, actually.
The concept of a replay?
Well, what about replays? Do you want to take that, first of all, Tim, in South America? What about replays in the finals and also in the build-up to the finals?
No, it doesn't happen. Most of the cup competitions, and I think this is a grave error, most of the cup competitions are two-legged. I think that's such a huge mistake because you've got a league, you've got some kind of domestic championship format which will crown the best club, the most consistent club over the course of the season. Part of the joy of the cup is the luck of the draw, and it's a luck of the draw that helps those upsets. So I'm all for cup competitions being played just one leg. And, we all remember the tradition that we used to have of replays, some going, 5 or 6 replays. But when it's home and away two-leg, it just ends with a penalty shootout. So there is no tradition of replays over here anymore. You used to get them. And bizarrely enough, even in the Copa Libertadores, which until this year it's going to a one-off final. But all of the finals since 1960, they've all been home and away. And what you used to have was goal difference didn't matter. So if you won the first leg 5-0, but lost the second leg 1-0, you would have a third game because you were level on points. A bizarre system, but that's the way it used to be done. So that third game will be held on a neutral ground. So they were kind of replays. So you did get them then, but we haven't had that for years and years and years. And I suppose the replay has been forced out by a calendar which is already over cluttered. Or am I wrong, Paul?
No, exactly right. We've not had replays in the semis or the final of the FA Cup since I think 1999-2000 season. So it's already fading into distant memory, and I think part of that is the rise in importance of continental competitions and how the same teams, the usual suspects are kind of in the latter stages of the domestic cup competitions, while still, hopefully from their perspective, involved in continental competition too. We always talk about too many matches, about players are exhausted, about winter breaks, etc., etc. And that's had a huge impact on the way that the cups are run, and we've seen changes even this season in the FA Cup and in the League Cup too, about two-legged matches and being reduced down to just a single game. I understand why, of course, but it would be nice to football in every aspect. Contemporarily, more recently, it seems that football is being loaded in favour of the bigger clubs, the bigger teams, and you struggle now as a smaller team to go to a Premier League side and ground out a 0-0 draw, take them back home on your bobbly pitch and try and knock them out of the cup.
Jermaine Gina said something on Five Live Football Social yesterday evening, which I thought was actually a really valid point. He said in the old days there was more parity between the big clubs and the smaller clubs because, really, they were all as fit as each other, more or less, even though the bigger clubs... Well, exactly. That's exactly the point. Even though the bigger clubs may have had more skillful players, that would give them a little bit of an edge, but not necessarily the amount of edge that they'll have nowadays, where the fitness levels of the Premier League or the bigger clubs' players are all sort of scientifically done and everything.
And also, Dalton, with refereeing, it used to be the first 10 minutes of a cup tie between a small team and a Premier League team was never mind the ball, get on with the game, and you kick them all over the pitch.
I'm glad you said singular.
You can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Thank you. No, I'm just glad it was a singular ball. Alan in Santa Monica, thank you very much for the call. Appreciate it.
Is Alan still there?
No, we've lost him.
We still got Alan?
Oh.
All right, there we go.
David in Birmingham's still here, though. Hello, David.
Hello there, Dalton.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good to speak to
First-time
you.
caller, long-time listener.
Thank you very much for calling. I really appreciate it.
That's all right. I'm a Kidderminster Harriers fan.
Yeah.
Giant killers.
I'll take you back 25 years.
Go on,
to
then.
the romance of the third round of the FA Cup.
I was in short trousers at the time, but yeah, let's go back there.
Well, I was 24, 25 years old then, but we played Birmingham City at Birmingham City's ground in the third round, and everybody was expecting us to get thumped 6 or 7-0. And we went 1-0 down after 8 minutes, and we ended up winning 2-1. And it was absolutely amazing. And in the fourth round, we played Preston North End, and we won 1-0 at home. And David Moyes was captain of Preston.
Oh, yeah.
And then in the fifth round, we drew West Ham United at home. And in the morning, I got up first thing in the morning with a hangover, waiting to celebrate, such an occasion.
Yeah.
And thought, I'm going to go over to Agda, our ground, and just sort of soak in the atmosphere, thinking I'd be on my own. And there was about 400 or 500 other people at about 9 o'clock in the morning, just ambling around the ground, soaking in the atmosphere. And we lost 1-0 that day to Lee Chapman, to a header. But it was absolutely amazing. I mean, when we beat Birmingham City, Barry Fry was the manager of Birmingham City. And that was the best team performance I've ever seen my club play. We were in the Vauxhall Conference. Birmingham City were in the division, well, it was the championship as it is now. And we went on to win the league. And unfortunately, because we didn't have the ground up to standard in time, we didn't get promoted to the league in time. we ended up getting promoted for a couple of years in 1999. But it was absolutely fantastic.
It sounds like it as well. I really thank you for sharing those memories with us, David. Thank you very much. I particularly liked, your playing Birmingham and going down 1-0, as you said, and then winning 2-1. The reason why I particularly liked it is because you didn't give Tim a chance to do his black country accent. I thought, oh my goodness, oh my word, here comes his Brummie, and you didn't give him a chance. You told the story so well, you didn't give him an opportunity. We're very grateful to you.
The important thing, as David related, is the emotions that you go through, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I love that about going there at 9 o'clock in the morning to soak it all up.
With a hangover.
With a hangover, of course.
And it's like
thinking
Paul
you'd
said,
be the only
it's
one
that
there.
moment when you want to be part of something that's bigger than yourself, and
do you know
that was a great way to illustrate.
Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of going to a gig with a band or an artist that you really, 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 really love, and you'd be there first, or going to Glastonbury and being first in the queue or whatever it was. You wanted to be there to feel the whole experience. I knew this Jamaican guy who loved Gregory Isaacs, the great Jamaican singer, and it was Dennis Brown that he loved, Prince of Reggae, Crown Prince of Reggae. And when I went to a gig with him, mate, he wasn't messing around. And he was a big man as well. Imagine, he's like about 50 years old at this point. And I'm maybe 30 years old. And he says to me, look, Dawson, make sure you get there early because, I want to be there. I want to be right at the front. All right, you're a big man. What are you doing? So I get there at whatever time I get there. The guy's not there. Finally saw him after. He was so cheesed off because him waiting for me, it meant that he wasn't on the front row. He was like on the second row in the audience. And he had told me quite clearly that he wanted to see what kind of shoes Dennis Brown was wearing, what kind of socks he was wearing. That's why he had to be at the front with all the fans. And that's how it feels when you're going to a football match. You want to soak in every aspect of the atmosphere, even when nothing's happening, I suppose. I don't know why I tell that story. The guy's name is Milton, by the way. He knows who he is. Oh, lots and lots and lots of texts and emails for you. 08085 909 693 is our number. Still got another half an hour of this morning's World Football phone-in to go. It is ostensibly about football in South America and Europe, and we will get to some of those as well. A few of your stories were FA Cup romance. So Jack in Brighton says Tottenham Hotspur versus Man City FA Cup final replay 1981.
All right.
I was... Let me finish.
He'll be saying it in a Geordie accent now.
Get William back on.
Yeah. So, and this is what gets me. He's talking about my hood here because he says, I was there as well. I remember returning to Turnpike Lane, which is a tube station, not close to Tottenham's ground, but still in Tottenham technically, carrying my flags and getting cheers on the road. Well done, you. And this other one, all this talk of Hereford versus Newcastle. What about 2011 third round? Stevenage 3, Newcastle
1. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Well done, you.
Yeah. Well,
a brilliant match and result, and of course, revenge for 1998 when we took them to a replay but lost out second time around. Sorry, Paul.
Dalton, I'll remember. I'll have no problem when it's the 40th anniversary of that one, but the 46th anniversary, Dalton, and the 47th anniversary, I've had enough. I
can hear that clearly. Still going to be on Football Focus, however much you've had.
First for news and the best live sport. This is BBC 5 Live. Up all night with Dotun Adebayo.
Yeah, it's the World Football phone-in. It's Europe and South America. It's the Galatasarays and the Legendino. And we've had lots of your FA Cup memories as well. We'll continue with those in a moment or two. But let's mix things up and make it three the hard way by inviting in our own Northern Soul, Johnny Duerden, because it's not just here in England that people are talking of cup football, Johnny. They're talking about it in Abu Dhabi as well.
Good morning, Dustin. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks very much. Huge delay on the line. And you are in Abu Dhabi, or as we call it, AD, rather than KL this morning.
Well, I knew you were going to say that. And I just arrived a few hours ago. I haven't even called my wife to send here yet, but I'm talking to you about...
Listen, do you want to call your wife first? We'll speak later. So what's going on there? The Asian Cup?
Yeah, Asian Cup starts tonight. It kicks off in Abu Dhabi, the capital of the UAE. Beautiful blue skies this morning, about 23, 24 degrees. I think it's going to be perfect for football. And host UAE kick off against Bahrain, and then that starts, 4 weeks of football. Asian Cup has expanded from 16 to 24 teams for the first time, so lots of new teams in the mix, like the Philippines, Yemen, Kyrgyzstan, and Vietnam in as well, and Thailand, and lots of interesting sides. So it should be a very, very interesting 4 weeks.
Yeah, we've been talking about the romance of the FA Cup over here, and as you said, you haven't called your wife yet. Have you bumped into any romance over there with regards to the Cup?
Well, there's not been much time. Well, I just arrived. I arrived late last night, so not yet. The local newspapers are talking about it quite nicely, and I think soon I'll wander out and see what the word on the streets is. Abu Dhabi's not really kind of buzzy kind of place, to be honest. It's very kind of wide open and sprawling, and it's not really a football city. So the last time I came, it was like 2 or 3 years ago to see a local game, and there's nobody at the stadium at all. But so it'd be interesting to see how the locals kind of got onto it. I mean, India play tomorrow, and there's lots of Indians working out here, so they may even have a better atmosphere at India games than local games. But I think if the local team UAE do well, it takes time for the fans to get excited, but they will do if they get to last stages, but they haven't been playing very well of late.
Tim, Paul, have you got any questions for our Asian football correspondent, Johnny Durden?
I have, yes. Yeah, good evening. Good evening. Good morning, Johnny. Why so few Asian coaches in... there's 4... I was looking at the squads earlier, mainly because I wanted to know why Son was still playing in the FA Cup despite the Asian Cup kicking off
leave him alone
tomorrow. He's your best player at the moment.
He's a goner soon.
Yeah, well, it's because he played in the Asian Games in the summer apparently, so they've given him a couple of games off. But why so few Asian coaches? I mean, we've got the likes of Hector Cooper, who's coaching in the competition, and even Sven's there, Sven-Göran Eriksson. But only 4 Asian coaches. Any particular reason?
Well, yeah, obviously, it's 4 out of 24 is very low. It's often been the case, and what often happens in Asia, especially countries will go with a local coach, and then after that they'll often follow with a foreign coach. But I think often, especially the Asian Cup getting bigger and bigger for many teams, they see a bigger name as the man to deliver some kind of success. I mean, that success can be relative. As you mentioned, the Philippines have got Sven, who came in October. He's on a 6-month contract, and the hope is that he can take them to the second round. I think that's replicated around the continent, especially in West Asia, where often there's not that much long-term thinking when it comes to coaching appointments, and they just want to seek the success in the short term. I think it's interesting now. In Japan, Australia do have local coaches, which hopefully, I think for them, for Asian coaches in general, they'll do quite well. But there's still a little bit of the glamour feel, or the big names from South America, and especially Europe, can come in and do a job. But it doesn't always work that way. I mean, Marcelo Lippi's been in charge of China for 2 years, and that team is probably worse than it's ever been at the moment. Alberto Zaccheroni has been in charge of UAE for about a year, and they've always been terrible coming into the tournament. So it remains to be seen if their kind of tournament know-how can make a difference. But I mean, that's what the Federation is banking on.
Listen, whilst we've got you on, let's do 3 the hard way for one question. This is a classic World Football phone-in question, a brilliant question, actually, I think, from, it's a long one as well, from Alex in Hull. So put your feet up for a moment, but I want all 3 of you to join in on this one. He says, first of all, what a great show you guys put on each and every week. I was put onto this show by a friend and I listen to the podcast every single week. I've got a question for the panellists regarding the importance of defensive players in the team. Since Guardiola brought his brand of football and football change into the attacking game as it is today, with successful teams focusing on the high press, with the likes of Guardiola and Klopp being successful and the likes of Mourinho with his defensive style becoming more obsolete within the game, with Simeone a possible exception. So with this style of play, it's normally the attacking players who gain all the plaudits, with Messi at Barcelona, Salah last season at Liverpool, and De Bruyne at Man City. However, is there actually a real emphasis on the defensive players in these teams with this style of play rather than the attacking players who get all the plaudits? Another example is De Bruyne at Man City was missing for a few months in total. It wasn't hugely missed, but Fernandinho was missing for 2 games and Man City fell to defeats. When you look at the success of recent teams, there was always talk of Busquets being the key to Barcelona and Messi getting all the attention, Modric and Cruz for Madrid, yet Ronaldo got the plaudits during his time there, and Liverpool last season with Mo Salah, yet the recent acquisition of Alisson and Van Dijk seemed to be the real key to their possible success in this season's title race. I know both you, Johnny, and Tim won't have seen all those players that we're talking about, at least not the English ones, people playing in England so much, but just generally, in answer to the essential question from your regions, tell me, how important are the defensive players in the teams, the successful teams in particular? Tim, do you want to go first?
Well, I mean, even in the attacking teams, balance is fundamental. And you mentioned it there. It was on the tip of my tongue as you were reading that, the praise that Fernandinho was getting with Man City. So the players who can balance out the side are clearly very, very important. However, the hard part of football is scoring the goals. And so for Liverpool, all right, Van Dijk and Alisson, fantastic signings. They've completed the jigsaw. But it's the sharp end of the jigsaw up top where they're capable of scoring goals. And that's what makes the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo get all of the plaudits. That they are capable of doing the thing in football that is hardest to do. But if you want to attack, then you must be able to balance out the play. You must be able to defend yourself when you lose the ball. So it's also a style of play, that high press, that demands movement, effort, running, sacrifice in order to halt the opposing counterattack at its source. You want to be defending in the smallest amount of space possible, so you have to run as little as possible. But that means very intensive running over short periods to collectively press the opposition and stop the counterattack at source. So it's a collective thing. It's not just a one man. It's not just Fernandinho doing it, although Fernandinho is the principal one responsible for that in a Man City side. And that's an absolutely vital task. But still, the difficult thing in football is the scoring of goals and putting the ball in the back of the net. That's why they get the plaudits, and rightly so.
Just very quickly, have you seen that shift from defensive play to attacking play that our listener was alluding to as well? Have you seen that shift in South America? No?
No. It really hasn't happened over here to anything like the same extent. And part of this, I think, is the role of television. On television we underestimate how much television has revolutionised the game. It's revolutionised the finance of the game. It completely revolutionises the audience, the market. You know, in the old days, the market, if you like, were the 40,000 people inside the stadium. Now, with television, the market is global and it is limitless. So there's a real, built into the DNA of modern European football, is the desire to produce a spectacle which is good enough to attract a neutral audience in Asia. And so that I think that business necessity has put more emphasis on attacking play. And interestingly, I think that FIFA saw this before anyone else, because the World Cup was a made-for-TV event as early as 1970. So a lot of the law changes that made life easier for attackers, the crackdown on the tackle from behind and so on, they came in from FIFA trying to protect the spectacle. In South America, although TV is very important, it hasn't changed the way that the game is played on the field to anything like the same extent.
And Paul, you are the Manchester City declaration man who the email talked about some of your players.
Yeah, I think we have seen a general shift, I think, in European football from a more defensive mindset to a more attacking outlook. However, a couple of points that I will make. One of the greatest attacking players in the history of the game, and the coach who has spawned the Guardiola style, Johan Cruyff, said, "If you can't win, don't lose." And it seems like a slightly glib throwaway comment, but there is more substance to that phrase than I think most probably give it credit for. And if you look at Manchester City, who won the Premier League last season with a record number of points, record number of goals, record number of wins, they also had the best defence. And the two teams that we were talking about, the teams that played the top two in the Premier League, Liverpool and Manchester City, who played yesterday on Thursday evening, have the two best defences in the league. And partly the reason for that is Guardiola's teams monopolise the ball. If you can't, it's like Floyd Mayweather. If you struggle to hit him, if you can't hit him, you can't beat him, and he'll grind you down over 12 rounds, moving and getting out of the way of everything that you've got to throw at him. And in the end, you knacker yourself out, and he hits you with a couple of counter punches.
What about that point though? Our listener Alex was suggesting that Fernandinho is more crucial to Manchester City's success, but much more important than Kevin De Bruyne.
No, because what Tim said, the first word that came out of Tim's mouth in answer to this question was balance. And balance is absolutely incredibly important. Kevin De Bruyne came to England initially with Chelsea playing as a wide player, a not particularly quick, not massively skillful wide attacking player, didn't get his breakthrough, went to Germany, changed his game, and at City in his first season he played as an attacking midfielder, and then he dropped deeper. As Yaya Toure was phased out, Kevin De Bruyne played a much more balanced role, and he's able to do so because he is a magnificent footballer.
So he's more important to Man City than Fernandinho?
I think Fernandinho has showed just how important he is to the rest of the world over the last few weeks, but Manchester City supporters have known that for 5 years or more. I mean, he's an incredibly important player to how City want to play, and basically he's so good that he does what N'Golo Kante did at Leicester. He takes the place of two players.
Tim, I'm letting Paul talk about Man City. Why won't he answer my question? Who's the more important?
It's a team game, Don.
But who's the more important to the team? Kevin De Bruyne or Fernandinho? Your opinion?
Well, at the moment, it's Fernandinho because Kevin De Bruyne is coming back off two relatively long injuries. But last season it was De Bruyne.
You knew what I meant. Anyway, but let's leave it at that for now. And if you can...
There's always ways round it, though. Okay. You can ask the question, who's the more important, Fernandinho or De Bruyne, and you can answer Aguero.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting.
I want to get Johnny's perspective. Sorry, we're running out of time. It's the only reason why I'm cutting you off. Sorry, Johnny. Go ahead. What about from an Asian perspective? Have you seen any of this shift from defensive play to attacking play, for example?
Well, a little bit. I think it ties into a bit what Paul mentioned before about lots of foreign coaches in the Asian Cup. And I said a lot of it is, federations going for big names over a short term, but there are some who look at, the more patient possession game that is being successful in the top leagues. And trying to hire maybe less well-known coaches, try and do something similar over here. I mean, Jordan, our national team, like many in Asia, that kind of mid-level, often quite defensive and look straight on the counter-attack. But now that they've hired a man called Vital Borkelmans, who is assistant to Mark Wilmots in the Belgian national team, and he wants to instill, patient, more of a build-up start with Jordan and have the ball much, much more. So I think it's happening with South Korea too. They've hired a Portuguese coach, Paulo Bento, and he's trying to do something similar. A bit more patient, fast-paced passing game with South Korea. Of course, especially in West Asia, the challenge always is will you have time to implement those ideas, because especially in the West, courses come and go at a crazy rate. But I think the desire at some point to try and move away from what lots of Asian teams in the past just sat back, be well organised and try to hit on a counter-attack to do something a bit more proactive, a bit more imaginative. I think that comes a little bit from Europe. But so it'll be quite interesting to see. I mean, tomorrow, Jordan play against Australia in the opening game. And that's going to be a real test for Jordan, because They played Croatia in October and lost just 2-1. They played quite well. But playing a strong team like Australia, how are they going to play? Will they fall back to the old kind of sit back and see what happens, or will they try and take the game a bit more to Australians in the opening game? So I think that will be quite interesting to see. But I think in Asia, it's slowly starting to see teams like Japan do it anyway, but a lot of the mid-ranking teams are starting to think, well, maybe this is the way forward for us as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Let's go to our callers, last callers of the night. Peter in Derby, bear with me 2 seconds. Let's go to John in Southend first of all, though. Hello, John.
Yep, hello. Yep, actually in Bedford, but there you go.
Oh, well, it says, Bedford. We'll take Bedford then. Anyway, good to have you on the programme.
The south end of Bedford.
Yeah, exactly. Near London, yeah. So let's go to your FA Cup memories. Which one do you have a romance about, if you like?
Well, I've had a drug, which has been Southampton Football Club from the time I was 11. I think I went to watch Leyton Orient to see Terry Payne for the first time. And then, of course, got into the top division in 66, got relegated. 76, mid-table, second division side, championship as it would be now. And I went to the third round, which was at home to Villa. And we were at home to Villa, and Villa were a first division side then, and we were a goal down with a minute to go. My dad and I sat next to Peter Osgood for that. Won the replay, amazingly. Went to Bradford in the sixth round, and semi-final at Palace with Malcolm Allison being booed with his fedora on. We won that 2-0. And I had to go back to sea, and I can remember that the final, waking up on a ship in off Tunisia, a lot of Saints fans on board, and listening to the radio during the course of the day, it got more and more depressing. All the commentators were saying it was going to be about 8-0 to Manchester United. This could be the biggest cricket score in FA Cup history. And then we listened to the game, and 0-0, 0-0. And when Bobby Stokes scored that goal, crikey, I think the ship nearly took off heading for the moon. Unbelievable. And I can't remember much after that, except wake up at 9 or 10 in the morning. I was a mate of the ship, and I thought, well, I don't know what the captain's going to say about this party, but he was very good. But yeah, and of course that's the only major competition we've won. I went to the 79 League Cup final. We lost 3-2 to Brian Clough's Nottingham Forest. But yeah, Bobby Stokes, who sadly died, of course, when he was about 43. But yeah, great memories.
John, McCalliog to Stokes, who's onside. But was he?
Absolutely, yeah.
He was onside? You think that was all right? Because I know some United fans who, all these years afterwards, are still arguing that McCalliog to Stokes was offside, but the flag stayed down. Yeah,
but I mean that you tell a story there with Jim McCalliog, Peter Rodrigues, guys who, and of course Mick Channon, who'd come back, he'd left and gone to Manchester City, and he came back. Peter Osgood. Saints paid a lot of money to try and get Peter Osgood to score goals and keep them up a couple of years before. But these were guys who, and I think they said it after the game, they'd all done it and been there, and they were given, and I think that's what raised their game. They've been given no chance. Peter Rodrigues, I think, came to Saints as the captain from Sheffield Wednesday at the beginning of that year. You know, great player in his time. But they had the ability, and I think in that atmosphere and knowing that history, they just raised their game. But I know Mick Channon talking on the radio years later, and he said, my memories, he said, that we were defending all the way through that cup final and we broke away. But he said, then I watched it, and he said we had quite a few chances. But yeah, I mean, offside or not, it's part of Southampton's history.
Yeah, don't worry about that offside business. You won fair and square. John, thank you very much for your memories. Peter in Derby.
Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for waiting patiently, Peter. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Long time listener, first time caller. But really, really appreciate your show and listen to it every week. So,
thank you.
But I want to tell you about again of a romantic story. I live in Derby now, but I'm an old Crewe Alexandra fan, and the magic of the cup. I remember going in the 40s with my father and my brother. But the one match that I want to tell you about is the infamous match at Gressy Road, where we played the fantastic Tottenham team, which we're in 1960 now, and this was included Bobby Smith, Danny Blanchflower, Bill Brown, the goalkeeper, Dave Mackay, all the leading players that you remember of that first Tottenham team that did the double in '61. And we were drawing. Well, it was a draw 2-2, and the last kick of the match, we should have won the match. And Bill Brown pulled off a fantastic save to avoid a defeat. So we went back to White Hart Lane, and I think it was probably the biggest crowd that they ever had at Tottenham. It was 64,000, something like that. And we got onto the ground. We were on the I used to work on the railway, and we left on the train from platform 2, and off we went. We got to the ground, and at half time we were losing 10-1. And in the end of the match, we lost 13-2, and we got back to Crewe into platform 13. So it was very ironic.
Wow.
So that's what you call the romance of football. But the following season we had the exact opposite of that. But so we're now in 1961, and I think it's the third round. We play Chelsea with Jimmy Greaves and Frank Blunston, who was an old Crewe Alexandra player. He'd come from Crewe to Chelsea, and we went to Stamford Bridge and won 2-1. And we, like your last caller, we got pretty merry on the way back on the train from London to Crewe. So that's the romance of the FA Cup.
And the good news, Peter, is that you won the moral victory.
Yes, we did.
Because 13 is unlucky for some.
Yes.
And you got it twice, so you got 26. 13 platform, 13 score. You won the moral victory.
We still remember it well. In fact, I've got the program. I actually spent a lot of money to get the program for that match, and it's in my archive here in Derby. And
do you not stop counting after 7 or 8? Do you carry on?
No. The beauty of it was we were 5-0 down, and our centre half, a guy called Gordon Wilmot, a very old, all the old Third Division North people and Fourth Division people would know who he was, and he headed a goal past Bill Brown, so we went bananas. One goal, but half time it was 10-1.
Sweet memories.
What a brilliant show! Brilliant show tonight, Don. And only the cup can do that, really.
Yeah, it's the magic of the cup, isn't it?
Like
it's the magic of the cup.
Beautiful.
It's the magic. And you've only had to declare an interest 13 times tonight yourself. So, Galatasaray, Paul, thanks very much. Legendino, Tim, many thanks. And thanks to everybody who took part tonight. Thanks for all your memories.